there is a place where the ground creates fire and the sky dances with color, where the inside of a glacier glows a shade of blue that doesn't exist anywhere else on Earth, and where the silence is so complete that the only thing you can hear is the sound of ancient ice pressing in around you. But here is what nobody tells you before you arrive. Iceland doesn't reveal itself the way most destinations do. It doesn't open up all at once, or hand you the experience you were expecting. It pulls you in slowly, through contrasts that don't feel connected at first. One moment you are inside something frozen and ancient and completely still. The next, the earth beneath your feet is actively creating itself in real time. And what makes that shift so powerful is that nothing here performs for you. And you either feel it or you don't. Because Iceland is not a place that adjusts itself to meet you. It is a place that asks you to meet it. And if you don't understand what each place actually feels like before you arrive, you might move through all of it and never fully feel any of it. So before you book the flight, before you plan the route, here is what Iceland actually feels like from the inside. Vatnajökull Ice Caves. Before you understand Iceland, you need to understand what it feels like to be inside it. Not on top of it, not looking at it from a distance, inside it. Beneath the largest glacier in Europe, the light changes before anything else does. The blue that fills the walls around you is not a color you have encountered in this depth or this intensity anywhere else in your life. Sound disappears here, absorbed completely by thousands of years of compressed ice pressing in from every direction. Every surface holds time within it, layers of ancient pressure visible in the walls, telling a story that began long before any of this was possible to reach. This is not cold in the way you expected. It is something older than cold. And once you feel that weight surrounding you, everything that comes after will make a different kind of sense. Northern Lights. You leave the glacier, and the world above feels completely different from the one you descended into. But Iceland is not finished with you yet, because what happens after dark here is something no photograph has ever fully captured. The Northern Lights don't arrive the way most people expect them to. They begin as a faint movement above the horizon, something you almost mistake for clouds shifting quietly in the wind. Then the color deepens and spreads across the entire sky, moving without pattern and without warning. The temperature drops around you, the silence becomes total, and nothing else competes for your attention. This is not something you watch from a distance, it surrounds you completely. And in that moment, the scale of everything you thought you understood quietly rearranges itself above your head. Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach. But Iceland is not only beautiful, and the next place will remind you of that immediately. At Reynisfjara, the color of the ground changes everything about how the space feels. The sand stretches out in every direction, deep and dark, absorbing light rather than reflecting it back toward you. Waves arrive with force and without pattern, colliding against basalt columns that rise from the shoreline like something deliberately placed and impossibly old. The wind moves constantly here, and the sound of the ocean feels louder and more present than anywhere else you have stood. This is not a beach that feels calm or welcoming. It is raw and indifferent and completely unmoved by your presence. And that indifference is exactly what makes it feel more real than anything you have experienced so far. Icelandic Horses. After that intensity, Iceland does something completely unexpected. It slows everything down. And it does it in a way you never see coming. The Icelandic horse exists nowhere else on Earth in this form. Small and steady and completely unbothered by the wild landscape moving around them. They move through open fields with a calm that feels almost impossible given everything surrounding them. Getting close to one changes the feeling of the entire experience. The warmth of the animal against the cold of the air creates a contrast that is physical and immediate and completely grounding. This is not a spectacle. It is a moment of quiet connection in a landscape that has been pulling your attention outward since the moment you arrived. And that shift inward is exactly what you needed before Iceland shows you just how small everything else actually is. It is a moment of quiet connection in a landscape that has been pulling your attention outward since the moment you arrived. Westfjords and fjords throughout Iceland. Most people drive past the Westfjords without stopping, and that is the single biggest mistake you can make in Iceland. The fjords don't announce themselves. They simply open up around you, vast and deep, and completely without warning. Walls of rock rise on either side until the sky above narrows to a single strip of light, and the scale of what is surrounding you becomes physically impossible to ignore. The water below sits completely still, reflecting everything above it so perfectly that the line between the surface and the sky disappears entirely. The silence here has a weight to it that you feel in your chest before you notice it with your ears. And the cold that moves through the fjord is different from the cold anywhere else in Iceland. Slower, deeper, like it has been collecting in this space for centuries. This is not a landscape that performs or demands or announces itself. It simply exists at a scale that makes everything you thought was large feel suddenly completely small. And standing inside it, you realize that some places don't need to be dramatic to be unforgettable. They just need to be real. Landmannalaugar Highlands. And then the landscape does something that stops all logic completely. In Landmannalaugar, the mountains stop making sense in the way mountains usually do. The terrain shifts through colors that feel altered rather than natural, moving from deep burgundy into soft greens and pale yellows without transition or explanation. Geothermal streams run warm through ancient lava fields, cutting paths through rock that has been here longer than anything you can reference. The silence up here is different from the silence at sea level. It feels heavier, more deliberate, and completely undisturbed by anything existing outside of it. This is the version of Iceland that most people never reach. And the gap between what you expected and what is actually in front of you is exactly what makes this place impossible to forget. Fagradalsfjall Volcano. But nothing in Iceland prepares you for what it feels like to watch the Earth create itself. At Fagradalsfjall, the ground is not geological history. It is geological present. Molten lava moves across the landscape in real time, slow and inevitable, consuming everything in its path without urgency or hesitation. The heat arrives before you get close, pushing back against you in waves that make the air above the flow shimmer and distort. The color of active lava at night is something your eyes take time to process, a deep, glowing orange that pulses with a rhythm that feels almost biological. This is not something that feels safe or comfortable to be near, and that discomfort is the point. Because you are standing at the edge of the Earth, doing what it has always done, long before any of this existed, and long after all of it is gone. Dynjandi Waterfall. After the fire, Iceland takes you somewhere it almost doesn't want you to find. Dynjandi begins as sound, low and steady, reaching you before the falls are visible and building slowly as the path climbs upward through the remote Westfjords. Then the full shape comes into view, wide at the top and expanding as it descends, cascading in tiers that each carry their own distinct weight and movement. The fjord stretches out behind you as you climb, deepening the sense of distance and remoteness with every single step forward. There are no crowds here, no noise beyond the water and the wind. Just the feeling of having traveled far enough to find something that most people only ever see in photographs. And that feeling of having earned it is something that belongs only to the people who actually make it here. Whale watching Husavik. And then Iceland opens up in a way that makes everything before it feel suddenly small. Off the coast of Húsavík, the ocean stretches outward without limit in every direction. Humpback whales surface without announcement, breaking the water with a presence that immediately changes the scale of everything around them. The sound of the breath leaving the water reaches you before you fully process what you are looking at. And in that moment, the size of the animal and the size of the ocean and the smallness of everything else arrives all at once inside your chest. This is not wildlife you observe from a comfortable distance. It is something that moves through you before your mind has time to catch up with what your eyes are seeing. Diamond Beach, Jokulsarlon Glacier Lagoon. And then Iceland brings you back to where everything began. To ice. At Diamond Beach, glacial icebergs drift slowly from the lagoon toward the shoreline, coming to rest against the same black volcanic sand that has appeared throughout this entire journey. Each piece of ice catches the light differently, some clear, some blue, some holding colors inside them that have no name in any language. The water moves slowly here, and the whole scene unfolds without urgency, without force, without anything demanding your attention in any particular direction. This is not the dramatic Iceland. This is the quiet one, the one that waits for you at the end of everything else. And as you stand there watching the ice move toward the shore, you realize that this is what the whole journey was always building toward. Not a destination, a stillness you had to earn. Iceland doesn't show you everything at once. It builds slowly, through contrasts that only make sense when you look back at all of them together. Some places here pull everything outward, into scale and force and movement that fills every sense at once. Others bring everything inward, into quiet, into stillness, into something that asks nothing from you at all. And the distance between those two feelings is not a flaw in the experience. It is the entire experience. Because Iceland is not a place that stays the same as you move through it. It shifts beneath you and around you and above you, sometimes all at once, without warning and without apology. The moments that stay with you longest are never the ones that looked the most dramatic in the frame. They are the ones where the place changed how you felt before you even noticed it happening. That is what Iceland actually is. Not a landscape, not a destination. A feeling you didn't know you were looking for until you were already standing inside it.